This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning, Rabbi Sai. Bruchim Abam to the Kollel Repercussions here in Queens, New York, and we want to welcome first Torah Anytime viewers and those listening on J-Root Radio. Okay, so we continue with part 2 of the shiur that we began with last week. The title of the shiur is The Case of the Poisoned Sandwich and the $25 million funeral. The case of the poisoned sandwich and the $25 million funeral. Basically, the story went, there was a chemistry student who was brilliant, academically excelled, but as bright as this young man was academically, that's how abysmal he was socially. And people would take advantage of him. More specifically, there was one guy who would steal a sandwich every day, and he couldn't tolerate it anymore, he couldn't take it anymore, it was getting on his nerves. Higia mayim nafesh, his whole nervous system is about to have a breakdown, and finally he comes up with an einfall. If he would merely place some poison in the sandwich, and next time the culprit, the perpetrator, would definitely suffer the consequences, and he would be able to figure out who stole the sandwich. And sure enough, in the middle of chemistry one day, just when things were about to get as boring as ever, one guy in the back of the shiur, he keels over, he's about to die. Luckily, this guy had the antidote, he gave him the antidote, but this really created a great sensation. What would the halacha be if this were to happen among Jewish people, whether one is halachically permitted to put poison in a sandwich to prevent somebody from stealing their sandwich? And the story, the situation presented itself to Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein, where he responded emphatically that not only is it permitted for someone to put poison in the sandwich of the ganov, it's actually a mitzvah to put poison in the sandwich of the ganov. And he invoked the Gemara Bava Kama, Daf Samach Tes, which the Gemara is talking about if somebody has arla in their field, or shvius, arla in their field, netaravai in their field, and so on. The Gemara tells us how it has to be marked off to prevent people from consuming arla and netaravai. But the Gemara concludes this is only during a year of Shemitah where the fruit is hefker. But on a regular year, you don't mark it off. Instead, the Gemara uses the following expression: Haliteu larasha v'yamais. Gorge the wicked man and let him die. In other words, why should I stop you from eating the arla? You're a ganav. Eat the arla and drop dead. And the Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein said, not only are you allowed to, it's a mitzvah. Imagine a guy comes home one day, he's feeling all good about himself. He tells his wife, boy, I did a lot of good deeds today. His wife said, what did you do? I killed at least 20 people. Really? Who'd you kill? I killed sandwich stealers. I poisoned their sandwich and they all... Very nice. So Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein said that this is actually a mitzvah, quoting the Gemara in Bava Kama Daf Samach Tes, and he also quoted the Gemara in Bava Kama that says that if you poison the food of your friend's animal, you go into his field and you poison the cow's fodder, then, not fodder, right? Animal food. And the halacha is, you are pater bidinei adam. Beis Din cannot obligate you. You are not responsible for killing your friend's animal. To which it was asked to Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein, yes, but the Gemara says you're chayiv b'dinei shamayim. Heaven will punish you for killing your friend's animal. Well, Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein had two things to respond to that. Number one, that's if you go into your friend's territory and property and you poison your friend's animal. But to put poison in your own field and your friend's animal would come to your own field, then not only you pater b'dinei adam, in such a case you'd be pater b'dinei shamayim as well. Well, and then Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein brought another proof from, if you look at number 6, just we're reviewing, from the Braisa and Masechta Derech Eretz Rabbah, where Rabbi Hoshua had a guest who he suspected to be someone of ill repute, someone who may steal from him. So when Rabbi Yeshua escorted him up to his lodging in the evening, when he came down, he removed the ladder. Well, sure enough, in the middle of the night, when the clock struck 12, the guy makes his way down what he thought was a ladder, but there was no ladder there, and he fell on his back, and he broke his spine. And Rabbi Shua basically said, "You fool, don't you realize that we suspected you?" So says Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein. From here we see that a person is allowed to protect their money, even at the expense of another person risking injury. Okay. Another proof, another idea that was mentioned was the fact that the Rambam brings many examples where somebody is not allowed to be goyim the misa of his friend. So you cannot incite an animal. You cannot incite an animal to kill somebody. To which Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein said, after the Rambam has given so many examples of where you're not allowed to be goyim someone else's misa, why didn't the Rambam give a similar case to the situation at hand, where you cannot poison your sandwich if someone's going to eat the sandwich? Says Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein, that's because the premise of this heter is the idea that my property is my property, and I could do whatever I want with my property. I could store cyanide soda in my whiskey bottles, and if you happen to want to sneak into my house during your Kiddush club and drink the cyanide, and you're going to drop dead, that's your problem. Nobody invited you to my Kiddush club Shabbos afternoon. So the basic premise of Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein is, my house is my house, my property is my property, and if you take the risk of entering, well, you're entering at your own risk. Yes? So midas is somebody who says, mine is yours. Yeah, you could have my cyanide, no problem. My cyanide is your cyanide. I'm not stopping you. But I don't know if shalish shalcha means that asmidas chasidus, to allow people to climb into the windows of your home and take your possessions. What does shalish shalcha mean? Maybe what it means is, even if I have something and I give it to you, I don't view it anymore like, oh, now you owe me. No, Hashem gave it to me to be able to give to you. But shalish shalcha, does that mean that I have an open door policy 24 hours a day? I don't know. Okay, so basically, Rabbi Sai, this is where we're holding. But the issue, and one of the questions that was raised was based on the tshuva of Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. And Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, in number 10, in the Shas Tshuvas Mincha Shloimei, also quoted the Braisa Masechta Derech Eretz. The Braisa Masechta Derech Eretz said that Rabbi Yeshua removed the ladder. Rabbi Yeshua removed the ladder, and the guy, climbed down and he broke his neck, and he basically was in a situation where he was a treifa. If you remember, Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein said that halachically, once somebody breaks their neck, they're considered as good as dead. But Rav Shlomo Zalman said like this. Rav Shlomo Zalman said that the reason why you're allowed to remove the ladder is because the Ganav, before he decided to jump off the second story of a house, the reasonable thing to do is, check with your foot. Is the ladder still there? After all, if the ladder's not there, you're a dead man. So, but if the Ganav had not been so hasty to rob Rabbi Yeshua, he would have seen and realized the ladder's not there, and he wouldn't have broken his neck. So really, who's responsible for the injury of the Ganav? The Ganav. The Ganav was negligent. Says Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein, does the same idea apply by a sandwich? Where does a person who's eating a sandwich say, maybe this is not a salami sandwich. Maybe this is a rat poison sandwich. Most people are not expected and have no reason to believe that when they're about to eat a sandwich, the sandwich may be poisonous. To which we learned last week that Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein's response was, oh, wait a second. We're talking in a chemistry class. They're abusing this guy. They're taking advantage of this guy. They know the guy is a brilliant chemist. He's just socially inept. They need to realize and anticipate the possibility that maybe one day the guy will wake up and say, you know what, I have no alternative other than to remove the salami and substitute it with Old Faithful's rat poison. So says Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein, So too in this case, the Ganav should have anticipated such a possibility. And he brings a raya. This is where we begin today's Shiur. Look at number 12. He tells the following story. There's a story about a man. He ran away from home. And Nebuch, the poor wife, is in Aguna. The poor wife is in Aguna. So, the wife is trying to get a get from the wife is trying to get a get from her husband, and she's stuck. She's stuck. So the husband writes her a letter, and he says like this: "I'll give you a get, provided that you're Meichel L'Ksuba." So she said, "No problem." She's Meichel L'Ksuba, and he gives her a get. He gives her a get. She takes the get, and she says, "Pay me the ksuba." So he says, "I thought you were Meichel L'Ksuba." She says, "Ha ha ha! Before I was Meichel L'Ksuba, I was Moiser Moida in front of two Eidim, that when I tell you I'm Meichel L'Ksuba, I don't really mean it." So he said, "No problem." So the get is puzzle, because I only give you a get almanas that you're Meichel L'Ksuba, and if the ksuba was not nimchal, it's not a get. She said, "No, you gave me a get. You gave me the get. I said I was Meichel L'Ksuba, I was Moiser Moida before." Comes the Alshich, and the Alshich HaKadosh says, the get is a get, and he owes the ksuba. Why? Because he's a fool. He should have realized that his wife would try to pull the wool over his eyes. His wife would say that she's Meichel L'Ksuba, and behind his back be Moiser Moida that she doesn't really mean to be Meichel L'Ksuba, she's only doing it to get the get. And since he should have anticipated and realized that she could have done something like this, so Iyu da'afsin anafshe, he's causing his own loss. He should have realized that she could do this. Well, says Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein, so too this Ganav. The Ganav who's stealing the sandwich every day should have anticipated the fact that one day it ain't going to be salami. One day it might cost him his life. And the fact that he didn't take the necessary precautions, that means that Ihu da'afsid anafshe. Well, Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein quotes another source, very interesting Gemara. Please take a look at number 13. Visu, Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi, Havi Ka'azli B'orcha. Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi Yossi, they're going on the road. Okay? Rabbi Meir have a dayik b'shma. Rabbi Meir would look into people's names. Let's say Rabbi Meir would say, "Shalom Aleichem, what's your name?" The guy said, "Oh, my name is Ganav." So Rabbi Meir said, "Watch out for this guy." Rabbi Meir was very careful to look at people's names. Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi, well, I have a dayik b'shma. Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi, they weren't so exacting with names. Well, they got to a place, and they said Shalom Aleichem to the host, and they said, "What's your name?" He said, "My name is Kedar." So Rabbi Meir says to himself, Kedar, what a name. The pasuk says, "Kedar tapuchos hema." It's a reference. It's a remez to an upside down dar. This guy must be a bad guy. Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi didn't pay so much attention to names. They gave the guy their wallet to watch. Rabbi Meir said, "No thanks." Rabbi Meir buried it in the grave of the guy's father. The father in the Olam HaEmes. Once a Ganav, always a Ganav. Doesn't matter if you're Olam HaEmes. In the Olam HaEmes, there's still Ganavim. Yeah? The father in the Olam HaEmes came to the son and said, "You wouldn't believe it. You wouldn't believe what's on my foot." The guy's wallet. So, the Kedar comes to Rabbi Meir. He knows Rabbi Meir is a big Talmud Chacham, who said, "I had a dream that there might be some money near my father." Rabbi Meir says, dreams, don't pay attention to dreams. Rabbi Meir then spent the entire Shabbos standing at his father's grave to make sure the guy didn't take the money. Anyway, the next day, Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi go to Kedar and say, "Give me my wallet." He said, "What are you talking? I don't have your wallet." "What are you talking about?" So, Rabbi Meir says to them, "What's wrong with you guys? Why didn't you realize the guy's name that says everything?" They said, "Why didn't you tell us to be Medayik in his name?" So Rabbi Meir said, "Look, I said to myself, if you're not worried, then, that's your issue." So they didn't know what to do. Basically, they took him to the tavern. The drinks were on the house. and they gave him to drink. And they saw some beans on the guy's mustache, because the guy forgot to wash mayim achronim. And when you wash mayim achronim, you sort of clean your face. So they went to his wife, and they said to his wife, "Please give us the wallet that your husband gave you to wash." So she said, "How do I know that my husband trusts you to relay the information?" So they gave a siman. The siman was, your husband had some beans on his face. So she gave it to them. The next day he comes back to her. He says, "Well, where's the wallet?" She says, "I gave it to them." "Why did you give it to them?" He killed her. He killed her. Says the Gemara, if you don't wash mayim achronim, you're going to murder people. I once went to someone's house. I said, "Can I have mayim achronim?" "No, it's not his minhag." I said, "I don't know, it's not your minhag to follow Shulchan Aruch. It's halacha and Shulchan Aruch. Mishnah Berurah says you got to keep it." There are some people who claim they have such a minhag. If you really feel you have a minhag that you could trace back, but otherwise, halacha and Shulchan Aruch, you have to wash mayim achronim. Otherwise, the Gemara says, not washing mayim achronim. Now, some people think you have to wash mayim achronim on Shabbos. Mayim achronim has nothing to do with Shabbos. Either way, if you don't wash mayim achronim, you're mevatel halacha and Shulchan Aruch. Whenever you wash, you must wash mayim achronim. It doesn't have to be from a kli, but you must wash mayim achronim. So people say, "What? I always have to wash mayim achronim?" First of all, no, not if you're not Jewish. Goyim do not have to wash mayim achronim. Also, people say, "I have to wash mayim." No, only if you eat. If you don't have to eat. If you want to eat, you have to follow the halacha and wash mayim achronim. Anyway, women also have to wash mayim achronim. It's a sif in Shulchan Aruch. Nashim chayavos mayim achronim. Anyway, women have to wash mayim achronim. Same way they have to wash mayim rishonim, they have to wash mayim achronim as well. Okay, so fragt Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein. The Chachamim are tracing something. They're observing something. They're seeing here that if someone doesn't wash mayim achronim, it could lead to bloodshed. So why didn't Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi realize that when they took the guy to the tavern and they then went to the wife to get their wallet back, why didn't they realize that what very likely will happen is the husband's going to kill the wife? They didn't realize that? I mean, we're talking about the Chachmei Yisrael. They could see Misayfa Elam Yad Saifa. Didn't they understand that if they're going to ask the woman for the wallet and the husband's going to come back and the husband's going to be upset, the husband may slit her throat? Why didn't they realize that? Didn't they know Baruch HaKodesh that he's going to kill her? They're going to get their wallet back at the woman's expense? The answer is yes! Because if you steal something from me, it's not my problem what's going to happen, it's your problem what's going to happen. And if you're going to kill your wife, it's not my problem, it's your problem. And it's even a mitzvah for me to get my wallet back and have your wife slaughtered by you, because that's your problem, not mine. In other words, what we're learning is, when you take my thing, you take it at your risk. And it doesn't matter what the repercussions are and what the results are. That's not my problem. That is your problem, says Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein. The Chachamim understood what could happen from such a thing. But nevertheless, this is the inyan of Haliteu Larasha V'Yamais. You gorge the wicked man and you let him die. You like that? Sounds very nice, right? That's the halacha. That's what doesn't sound nice?
It's funny.
It's not one of the more pleasant mitzvahs, but it's a mitzvah nevertheless. Haliteu Larasha V'Yamais. Gorge the wicked man.
The problem here is that they're saying that it's a mitzvah. They don't care, and he's going to kill an innocent person. So that's the problem. So listen. How could they say that my money is more important than preventing the murder of an innocent person?
So now this woman, we're assuming, was not an innocent person because she's in on it with the Gazela.
Yeah.
She's in on it. She's a partner in crime. In other words,
but you're not chayiv misa.
So we're gonna.
Even if she's in on it. So
Rabbi Say, let's delve into this a little further. In other words, this is a principle, again, based on the Gemara that says that if somebody is going to another person's field and is going to eat someone else's arla, since they don't care about stealing, we will let them eat the arla and be chayiv misa. Now, it is a little different to actually kill somebody physically than allow them to be chayiv misa b'dei shamayim. But Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein feels the language of haliteu l'rasha v'yamos implies that you could actually gorge the wicked man and physically bring about their demise. Well, let's see a little bit further. What?
About collateral damage?
What about that?
For instance, if you put poison into something, your child might be. I mean, there's always the...
You're right. And you're doing it at your own risk. But he who comes into your home and is drinking your whiskey bottle, he's stealing at his own risk. Rabbi said, let's delve into this a little bit further, because at first glance it may seem a little bit strange to our minds. Take a look at number 15. Take a look at this. Says Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein, what happened to good old Loisamed al Dam Reyecha, Hatzalas Nefashos? I mean, we know if you see somebody dying, you got to save them. If you see a Russia dying, let's say you see a Russia drowning, you got to save them. So if you have to save a Russia who's dying, how could you actually kill this Russia? There's a mitzvah of Hatzalas Nefashos. Well, here we come to a rather delicate issue. Do you need to save every Jew? Does every Jew need to be saved? What about someone who is a Russia? Do you need to save a Russia? Well, let's say even more than that. Are there situations where you could be moiser a Russia to the government, and the government will do to them something which is more than they may deserve? So, for instance, you have the very sensitive subject. You have a molester, and you want to report them to the government. Now, will the government deal with them kafi dinei haTorah, or maybe they'll take it over and beyond the dinei Torah? Maybe they'll lock the person up forever. So the Gemara tells us that somebody who is an established ganav, you're allowed to give them over to the government, even if the government's going to kill them. Now we have to be very careful here. What does this mean? The Gemara says in Bava Metzia on Daf Pei Gimel and Beis, look at number 16. Asiyul Rabbi Elazar Reb Shimon. Rabbi Elazar Reb Shimon was brought there to be like the new sheriff in town. The katafis ganavi, he was grabbing ganavim. Va'azil shalach le Rabbi Shua ben Karcha. Rabbi Shua ben Karcha sent him, what are you doing? You're taking Jewish ganavim and you're giving them over to the government? They may kill them. Chaymetz ben Yayin, you're vinegar, the son of wine. Your father Karcha was a good guy, he was wine, but you're vinegar. Ad Mosai Ata Moisar Amoy Shalal Kela Riga. How can you offer and deliver Jewish people to be killed? Shalach le, he sent back, what do you want from my life? Koitzim ani mechalam en hakerem. I'm just cutting away the thorns. From this Gemara you see that if you could halachically define someone as a thorn, you could give them over to the government. You know, one of the most abused concepts today is the concept of Masira. Now, this is not to rely on halacha l'maisa. Masira. If you have somebody who's endangering the community, and ein yadenu t'kifan, there's nothing we could really do about it, the Gemara says, it's pretty clear. I mean, you have to know, you have to be sure, you have to have eidos, and so on and so forth. But someone who is a ganav, now, there's actually a machlokes achronim, whether if a ganav, an established ganav, is dying, whether you need to save them. If he's a ganav lahachas, that means if he's stealing to anger Hashem, he's not doing because he's hungry or because he needs the living. He's doing it to anger God. He's a moired. Nobody holds you should save them. Halacha l'maisa. If you have a guy who's a ganav lahachas and they're dying, you are not authorized and allowed to save their life. Maybe. It's not your problem. You're right. That's why we have a Shulchan Aruch. The Shulchan Aruch says you're not allowed to save someone who's a ganav lahachas. You're not allowed to. It's halacha. So you say, but it's not really, how do you know the guy's lahachas? If he's stealing, he's probably doing it l'teyavon. He's probably hungry. He probably needs the money. It's a machlokes achronim whether you're allowed to save a ganav. Now, a repeated ganav, not one guy who does it occasionally. A guy who is an addicted robber. L'teyavon.
Someone like Reish Lakish, if he got in trouble doing that.
Again, before he did tshuva, before he did tshuva, it would be machloikis achronim whether you're allowed to save his life. The Chavos Yair, if you look in the Pischei Tshuva, look at number 19. The Chavos Yair writes, a Yehudi Ganav Mefursam, you do need to save them. You do need to save them. However, the Taz and the Shulchan Aruch paskins, a Ganav L'Teyavoin ein Mailan Oisai. If a Ganav L'Teyavoin falls into a pit, you leave him there. It doesn't sound right. What can I tell you? Not everybody's brain was born in a way that understands everything the Torah says. That's halacha. If you have a Ganav L'Teyavoin, there are many achronim that say you don't take them out of the pit. Says Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein, it doesn't matter. The guy who's stealing this person's sandwich every single day, and he's annoying him to the point where the guy is losing it. It's karav l'ritzicha what this guy is doing. To take advantage of somebody every single day, take their sandwich, the person's hungry, he's in pain, he has nobody to help him. This is what he calls a ganav lechaches. If the guy's life's in danger, you don't save him. To put poison in your own sandwich, it's a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah. Haliteu l'rasha v'yamas. Let's see some other ideas that he talks about. Look at number 20. Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein cites another Gemara. Mar Ukva asked Rabbi Lazar the following question. Mar Ukva asked Rabbi Lazar, there are a lot of people, they're bothering me, they're stealing from me, and I could sort of tattle on them to the government. What should I do? He said, keep your mouth closed. So sends Mar Ukva back. What do you mean keep my mouth closed? I can't take it anymore. They're really harassing me. So Rabbi Lazar responded, you know what? Doim la'Hashem v'hischoi la'loi. Be silent, pray, and God will kill your enemies. And sure enough, after he prayed, Geneva, the robber, was put in jail. Says the Chassam Sofer, had Mar Ukva not been able to daven, then he would have been able to give him over to the Malchus. Says the Chassam Sofer, what we see from this Gemara is that if you're in a situation where you're being harmed and you have no way to help yourself, even if it's not a major thing, let's say every day somebody's graffitiing your house and it's bothering you and you have no way to prevent it, you are authorized to send the person to the authorities, and it doesn't matter what's going to happen. Yeah, but the guy's going to get killed. Okay, so what? What do you have to suffer forever? If a person is in a matzav where they're being tormented without any recourse, you're allowed to be moister them. Says Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein, but we got a problem over here. And the problem that he's going to deal with, and this is very interesting issue, a fascinating inyan over here. Look at number 23. I'll read to you the words. We'll see if you can figure out the translation of this Hebrew word. Let's see if you know what it means, Menashe. Okay? Look at number 23. Hachnasas ral, the putting the poison, hu oynesh, loy lefi haproportia. Yeah, it's a new Hebrew word. Right? The punishment is not lefi the proportia. Right? It's not proportional. In other words, I understand someone steals, so let them pay back. Someone steals, let them pay kefil. Someone steals, let them play daled v'hei. But someone steals, now you're going to kill him? Since when is ritzicha a proportional punishment for stealing? Says Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein. Where do we see in halacha that punishment needs to be proportional? The Ramah says in Choshen Mishpat that if someone's hitting you, and then you're allowed to give them over to the government, even though the government's going to kill them. What do you mean it's not proportional? They're just hitting you. But I need them to stop. There is no halacha, there is no inyan that what the recourse has to be proportional. The Rama writes, Adam hamuka mechaveroi yachal leilech likbal lefnei nachrim af al pi de gorim lamaka hezegadol. Says the Shach. The Shach adds, look like this. Look at number 25. Says the Shach, he brings from Aram Mirisberg. If somebody is hitting their friend constantly, you could bring them to the government, and the government could cut off their hands. Well, what's going on? That's not proportional. The guy's just hitting people. He's not cutting off people's hands. Yeah, but if that's the way to stop him, you got to do what it takes. Yeah, but it doesn't sound good to me. You know, the liberal media would never like it. Okay, good for them, right? There's no halacha that proportional is midah keneged midah. Punishment is to get the person to stop. Now, obviously, you don't have to take drastic measures immediately. But if that's what needs to be done, that's what needs to be done.
How are you imitating the Rabbanu Shalom's Midas HaChesed?
You're not. This is not the time to imitate the Rabbanu Shalom's Midas HaChesed. I'm allowed to breathe, and this guy's harassing me. He's bothering me. I need to get him to stop. And the Beis Din is not strong. The Beis Din can't do anything about this guy, and the guy continues to do it. So you give him to the government. Again, I'm not doing it. I'm not there sawing off the guy's arm. I'm just being moiser him. That, in other words, that's the part of the halach to bedra. The Rabbanu Shalom is a kel mishpat also. Kel nekama is Hashem. Kel nekama is Sophia. Now it doesn't mean I could take the nekama into my own hands, because when the Rabbanu Shalom does it, he knows exactly what a person deserves. But here I have no recourse. So listen to the following example. This is probably most analogous. Amnon and Tamar. Yeah? Very mysterious episode in Tanakh. The Gemara says Amnon hated Tamar. He hated her sinas hamaves. First he loved her, but then he hated her. Why did he hate her? The Gemara says Kashroloi le'amnon nima. Tamar tied up one of her hairs, va'asa'asai krus shafcha, and she cut off she had his organ severed. So the question is, how's that? How could that be? The Gemara even says in Sanhedrin, Chaf Alpha Mabez, the Gemara says, Vayisna'a Amnom Sina Gedolim Oy. My taima, Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, Nima Nikshar Loi. One of her hairs got tied up, Va'asa'asai krus shafcha, and severed his member. V'chi Nikshar Loi. Just because it happened to him, Ihi Mayavda, what did she do wrong? Ela Ema Kashra Loi Nima. She tied it up, Va'asa'asai krus shafcha. So the Ben Yoyada asks, is this real? What could she have possibly done to make a hair be like a knife and sever? So the Ben Yoyada says like this. She used a certain cream and may stiffen the hair of the erva very sharply. Says the Ben Yoyada, that used to be the minhag, that a basula would do this to indicate that she's not roy labia, and a person would be pricked, and this was a siman that she's not roy labia. Yeah, but says the Ben Yoyada, but how would it render him a krosh shavcha? Well, what she did was she took a bunch of her hairs and she tied them all up together, and even though one hair cannot inflict such injury, but a bunch of them could be sharp like a knife, and in fact, she had Amnon become a krosh shavcha. Frek Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein, she may not have liked the guy, but what right did she have to render him a krosh shavcha? There's no punishment that if somebody takes a woman, the punishment is we make him a krosh shavcha. That's not midah keneged midah. So you want to fine him $50, 50 shekel. But what right did she have to ruin the guy's life? Says Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein, when you go to a makom that you don't belong, and when you go to someone else's territory, you're doing it at your own risk. And if it means you're going to die, the other person didn't kill you, you killed yourself. Says Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein, what we see from here is that there is no such thing as proportional punishment. What we learn from here is enter at your own risk. When you go to someone else's possession, or you get involved in someone else's territory, and you don't belong there, and you get killed, it's your own fault. Nobody killed the person other than themselves. That's the That's what we learn from here. V'haraya, he says. The halacha is, the Ktsois HaChoshen brings down, let's say you have a guy who doesn't want to put up a sukkah. You knock on the guy's door. Shalom Aleichem, Rabbi Yehuda. You know, tomorrow's Chukas. We don't see anything in your backyard. So the guy says, that's right. I'm not sitting in a sukkah this year. Really? He says, yeah. So basically we take a bat and we hit him on the thigh and we break his hip. The guy says, ouch. But I'm still not putting up a sukkah. And then we take a bat and we knock him on the head. And the guy says, I'm still not putting up a sukkah. Then we take a bat and we kill him. Did you know that halacha? That if somebody doesn't want to be mekayim mitzvah saseh, makin oisay ad sheyatza nafshay. Yeah. No kidding, not bisman hazeh. But halachically, bisman she'adenu tekifa, when we had a bezdin, a mitzvah saseh, makin oisay ad sheyatza nafshay. Ask you a question. Is that proportional punishment? The guy just doesn't want to put up a sukkah. There's no chiyuv misa for not putting up a sukkah. How could bezdin take someone's life for not putting up a sukkah? The answer is, we didn't kill him. He killed himself. We told him, put up the sukkah. He said, no problem. You're killing yourself. And we hit him on the head. And if he still says he doesn't want to put up a sukkah, then he's taking his own life. We're not killing him. He's taking his own life. But it's not proportional. No one ever said life is proportional.
Why didn't he pay him over? That's the Torah. That was halacha.
Yeah, that is the halacha. That's the halacha. It's not. It's for we enforce mitzvah saseh. It's a Gemara. Makin oisei ad shetetzei nafshay. By the way, even for drabanans, if somebody's mavato a mitzvah drabanan, makin oisei makas mardos, you could hit the guy very hard, even if it means ad shetetzei nafshay. Yeah, it's not very pleasant. So says Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein, halacha lamaisa, there is no concept that law enforcement needs to be proportional. Well, you'll ask, okay, fine. So you're allowed to kill the guy. You're allowed to put poison in the sandwich. But where do I get this idea that it's a mitzvah to put poison in the sandwich? It's a mitzvah? Where do I see there's a mitzvah? Look at number 30. And this is all brought down in a Torah journal, Ta'amei Yaakov, in the Kislev edition in Tav Shin Samach. Okay? Courtesy of, I believe, Hebrew books. Look at number 30. Rabim Shoyel Emoisi. Many people ask me, Heichan Matsasi, Shahaliteu L'Rosh V'Yama Zuhi Mitzvah. Well, says Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein, to me it sounds like it's a mitzvah. Because if you look in the Meiri said, what's the reason why we don't demarcate the field to stop someone from eating arla? Look at number 30. Now, if you would ask me, is it better to make sure the guy doesn't eat the arla? Honestly, let's ask ourselves an honest question. You have a ganav, and you know he's going to eat your arla. Is it better to stop him, or is it better not to stop him? I think instinctively most of us would say, come on, it's still better to stop him, but maybe I'm not required to. No. The Meiri says Hashem does not want you to stop him. Hashem wants the guy to eat the arla. Says the Meiri, Ein mesaknin la'ovrei aver. We do not fix things for avaryanim. Ella im yagiu. If he's going to go there, mutav. It's better. Sheyishtarshu b'chet. Let him become entrenched in sin. V'yoichlu davar ha'asar k'goin zeh haliteu l'rasha v'yamai. Says Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein. I'm just reading the words. Mutav sounds like, in the scheme of things, it is better in the eyes of Hashem that you let the guy eat the arla and drop dead. People look very sad today.
What about straw?
What? What about warning? What about warning? The warning is loy sigza. In the Aseret Hadibros, God came there. He said, "Don't steal." That was a warning.
It has to be, but they have to have
That's when Bezdin punishes, not when the person punishes themselves. When a person punishes themselves, no warning is required. We'll give you one final example for you to swallow or not to swallow. Shalus Teshuvas Radvaz. You ready for this? And this is halacha l'maisa. Shalus Teshuvas Radvaz. Reuven divorced his wife. Why? Because Reuven's wife was hanging out with Shimon. Reuven couldn't take it anymore. He said, "That's it. I divorce you on condition that you can't marry Shimon." What happened? Shimon hears about the divorce and he marries her with a civil marriage. He takes her to a place where they don't recognize her, and over there he marries her b'chuppah v'kiddushin. Now when he married her civilly, the get was not batal because he wasn't married to her halachically. But once he married her b'chuppah v'kiddushin, then her divorce from the first husband is now batal. Now whatever children Shimon will produce are mamzerim. Frek the Radvaz, should we go tell Reuven now to divorce your wife straight? This way, the children that Shimon are going to have won't be mamzerim. You're not getting your wife back anyway. You have nothing to lose. Should we say koifenoi sayamida sadam? You have nothing to lose. At least save the guy so that he should be married to her kahalacha, not violating an Isser Dairais every time he lives with her, and the children would be good. Said the Radvaz, Reuven is not allowed to divorce his wife. Why? He's mechuyev to make it that Shimon is an avarion and the children are mamzerim. Why? Because since Shimon is not allowed to marry her, why is Shimon not allowed to marry her? Because he lived with her while she was married to Reuven, so she's ushered him anyway al t'boyel. Now that's not an Isser Misa. Says Radvaz, once he's doing a small avera, it's a mitzvah to have him do a bigger avera and drop dead. Sounds very nice, right? That's the halacha. That's the halacha. Said Radvaz, let's take a look at number 32. She'ela al Reuven, she'girish al Manas, sheloi tinasei l'Shimon. Reuven divorced his wife on condition Shimon can't marry her. Why? Lefi shenitan oleha, because he had tainas on her. And he had to divorce her. Shimon went. He married her civilly. And now he wants to elope to somewhere where they don't recognize him. Says the Radvaz, no. Davar Yadua, Shahanitan al Isha, if someone is suspected on a woman, Asal Lisa, he's not to marry her. Hilkach Asuri al Shimon. She's not to marry Shimon. V'loy nater lo yanachnu Isra akal. Kadesh lo yavel Isra chamor. We're not going to matter a small Isra to prevent him from violating a bigger Isra. Adarabba, haliteu l'rasha v'yamas. Let the guy drop dead.
What would have happened had she before to aid him, so only accepting the divorce?
If she would meiser maida?
Yeah.
I don't know if you can be meiser maida on that. Okay, so now that we learned all these ideas, that's the conclusion. That's Rav Zilberstein. By the way, let's take a look at who concludes this way. Rav Chaim Kanievsky, we saw last week in number 7. He didn't want to get involved in this contentious story. He says, "Eini roy la'ira klal, I'm not worthy. Aval l'chayra yesh makom l'divrei gisi." There is makom for my brother-in-law. In other words, not a very definitive endorsement, but somewhat of an endorsement. Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein clearly concludes, based on all of the above-mentioned sources, that one who takes something that doesn't belong to them does so at their own risk. Again, he reiterates in number 34, in the case of the ladder, the Ganav should have realized the ladder was taken away, as opposed to the sandwich. How would anybody know that there's poison in the sandwich? He reiterates the idea that this is a chemistry class, and no food is safe in a chemistry class, which we also mentioned last week in number 36. Rabbi J. David Bleich questions that analogy where he says, look at number 36, Rabbi Zilberstein rather implausibly equates chemical analysis for the presence of a deadly poison with ascertaining that a ladder is in place before stepping off a roof. A prudent person does not step off a roof without determining that it's safe to do so, unless the person has specific cause to feel threatened. Testing food for the admixture of poisonous substance is probably a manifestation of paranoia. Okay. But everybody would agree that the next morning you could put a little toothpick in your sandwich. You know the kinds of toothpicks you put in the salami sandwich with a little red ribbon on top? You could put a little sign that says, warning, anyone who touches my sandwich will drop dead. That everybody agrees, because before you eat a sandwich with a sign on it, you should probably read the sign before you consume the sandwich. Okay. Not everybody agrees with Rabbi Zilberstein's psak. So, for example, we have over here, see if we could find it, a letter from Rabbi Menashe Klein, look at number 35, the Av Bezdin of Ungvar, where he says, look, Geneva is a lav. It's not even Chayiv Malkus, it's certainly not Chayiv Misa. But the halacha is that somebody who steals, you don't save him from a pit. So that's only a roya behema daka, somebody who steals on a daily basis. But just a regular ganav, you would save from the pit. On the other hand, this guy was a pretty regular ganav, so what about the case of the ladder? So Rav Menashe Klein throws in a little bit of a monkey wrench into this ladder case, and he brings many rayas from Shas that the minhag in times of the Gemara was that the ladder was always removed at night. That was a typical thing. The Gemara brings many situations where Amoram would stay in people's house, and they remove the ladder so that the person would not violate Hilchos Yichud. So since it was such a common practice for the Ganav just to jump down and not check the ladder, I mean that was really his own fault, because taking away the ladder is something which was commonly done. But poisoning other people's sandwich is not really a common procedure, and Rav Menashe Klein feels that would be excessive. Well, let's take a look at the conclusion, and we'll conclude with this for today. And you wanted to know, everybody's wondering, well, what about the $25 million funeral? You think you're going to get that today? You're not getting the $25 million funeral today. For that, you'll have to wait till next week. Well, let's end. Look at number 37. In number 37, this comes from the Sefer Mishpatei HaTorah. The Sefer Mishpatei HaTorah discusses a few interesting questions over here. He discusses the Shaila, Ganovim Partzu Pamayim B'tech Tkufa Shel Chatzi Shana Achroina L'dirasa Shel Adam Agor B'kam Eliyah. Basically, Ganovim keep on breaking into someone's second story house. Basically, they jump from one roof and they hang on to the laundry line. They get to the porch, they get inside. So what did the guy do? He made the laundry line not so strong.
Loose.
Yeah? A month later, the Ganav tries to come in, and as he's, stringing on the laundry line, he zip lines in, he falls on his head. Was it mutter to do that? Is he chayiv to pay the Ganav for damages? Or, let's say somebody wants to stop Ganovim, so what he's going to do is he's going to dig holes, like in the good old comic books. He's going to dig holes and cover it over with something that looks like the floor, but this way the Ganav falls in and there are always good spikes on the bottom of the pit. Well, in the Sefer Mishpatei HaTorah, he says like this. He holds you cannot make a takala in your house if it could cause damage to somebody who may forget and be damaged by it. In other words, you're not allowed to set up your house with a trap if it could easily damage members of your household or people who innocently may get harmed. Well, he says like this. In the case of the laundry line, no regular person is entering your home on a laundry line. The only person who would make it his business to enter on the laundry line is a ganav. For a ganav, you could do it. However, to make a takala in your reshus, if there's a possibility of one of the residents getting damaged, that's a problem. Basically, halacha l'maisa, Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein concludes like this. Look at number 38, 39, and we'll discuss it further next week. Number 1, ein chashash v'tzich lachnosas ra'al b'karach. If you have a sandwich, you may poison it. You have a vault and you have candies there, you could poison them. Why? Because you're not killing the ganav is killing himself. However, if in a normal situation, he says, if you put the poison in the sandwich, you're over the isra of Leisamar al Dam Reyacha. But that student who kept on stealing the guy's sandwich, that guy has a din of a roidev, he has a din of a rosh alahachis, and you don't have to save him. Now, are you allowed to save him? No. It's a mitzvah to kill him. It's a mitzvah to poison a sandwich.
What did he ask you to call on solo?
No, same thing.
No, he asked you.
What did he ask you?
He asked you to call on solo.
You say in Eretz Yisrael, you know how to have a smartphone.
No, that's
What did Rabbi Yashiv paskin? At least Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein maintains that he asked his father-in-law, Rabbi Yashiv, and Rabbi Yashiv said as well, not only are you allowed to poison the sandwich, it's a mitzvah to poison the sandwich. So here's a little trivia question. When is there a mitzvah to poison a sandwich? If somebody's stealing your sandwich every day, let's say every day you come to the Agra de Pirka, and there's a Danish, and you have your Danish, and you like a specific kind of Danish, you like the black part of the black and white cookie, and every day the guy is stealing it. Well, according to this shita of Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein and Rabbi Yashiv, they learn halitei l'rasha v'yamais. So, Rabbi said, I think what we learn from here is, again, don't rely on this halach l'mais. I don't want to take responsibility on my shoulders for anyone poisoning their sandwiches. But not many halachas don't always sound like conclusions that we would have come to on our own. But there are very specific principles of the Torah which are not always fit into every sensibility that we may have. But this seems to be that somebody who's doing stealing on a regular basis. Again, the guy was doing it on a regular basis, and the guy who was being harmed was causing him psychological pain, and he had no recourse. There is a concept in Shas of haliteo l'rasha v'yamos. Rabbi Sai, may we always follow the Torah Kelchasa. Yes.
One last question. Now, Zilberstein paskin that haliteo l'rasha v'yamos. So, in other words, this guy is allowed to put poison in a sandwich.
No, he's not allowed to. He's not allowed to. He has a mitzvah to do it.
A mitzvah, even better. So in other words, he wants to get back at this guy. So now he's bothering him. Why would he be allowed to take this guy's life? In other words, the yomos, he's a chemist. He could just as well put something in there, not to kill him, but to make him sick, or to show that what he's doing is wrong. In other words, he's not going to do it again, because he's going to put something in there as a chemist and make him sick and not to kill him. So to say that, and that would of course show that he's the ganef. He wants to know who the ganef is. The guy ate a sandwich and he's really sick the way he intended him to be sick. So this way he would know that he's the ganef, but he's not taking his life. To take a person's life, a Jewish person's life, even if it's a ganef, like somebody said, he could always do tshuva. If somebody is
we're going to say halach l'maisa. Somebody, if you have a ganef who's in a hole, and he's a ganef lahachas, you're not to save him. That's a halach. You're not to save him.
You're not allowed to save him?
You're not allowed to save him.
Do you know that he's going to die? Do you know that he's going to die?
Yeah, that's the Gemara. Ein malanoisam in abar. You're not allowed to save him.
Is that halacha?
Yeah, that's halacha l'maisa.
I can't believe that could be the halacha.
It is the halacha.
Rabbi Say, have a great day. No, for example.
Can't believe that can't be the halacha.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.